The propagation of the gospel. 3. From the martyrdom of Stephen to the conversion of Saul. It is a matter of interest to observe the difference between the discourses in support of the religion of Jesus addressed by the apostles to the Jews and those addressed to the Gentiles. Well, non-Jews and Gentiles aren't necessarily the same thing if we look at the meanings of those words, but of the former we have a complete type in the speech of Stephen before the Sanhedrim. It is, perhaps, the longest discourse on this subject in the New Testament, or what they call the New Testament, or at least more fully reported, for we can hardly think that of most of the addresses we have more than a brief epitome of outline. The great characteristic of this, as well as of the others addressed to Jewish audiences, is that it reasons with entire exclusiveness from the Old Testament scriptures. The whole argument is granting what no one in such an audience disputed, that the whole patriarchal Hebrew and Jewish history implied the coming of a Messiah. Well, and other Messiahs that had already come, if he actually translated it right. And that types, ceremonies, and explicit predications had unmistakably foretold such a one as the deliverer of the people, then Jesus is that Messiah. Well, if you're told that's what you have to believe, it's a bit different. It's not too convincing to people who know Tanakh. Even the fact of his rejection by the very nation which had for ages expected him, the humiliation to which he was subjected, the ignominious death visited upon him, all became evidence in his favor, and were abundantly indicated in prophecies concerning him. The general characteristic we find in Peter's addresses at the very opening of the work in Jerusalem, as also in Paul's discourses to the Jews everywhere. So we learn that whenever any of the apostles or disciples in their missionary journeys went into the synagogues, they preached first to the Jews out of their own scriptures, opening and alleging that this is the very Christ. In the speech of Stephen, however, there is a peculiarity that he charges upon the Jews and sustains his charge with most palpable evidence that the nation has always resisted any new revelation of the divine will or any demand for moral reformation. This rejection of Christ, therefore, by the elders and the people, argued nothing against the genuineness of his messiahship, as it was in perfect keeping with the character of the nation in its whole history to discard and repudiate the highest and most essential truth. Well, most of the prophets don't seem like they got the acceptance during their life that they got after their life in proportion, but the term Grecians in the text refers to the Jews who were scattered throughout the world and who had come under the influence of the Greek culture and used the Greek language. They were called Hellenistic in distinction from the Hebrews who dwelt in Palestine. Now the Septuagint, if we remember, the one that the Jews had is gone. No one knows if there's any even fragment that remains, but the one that the Catholic Church came up with, well, that's what we have, so let's not, and some of the Greek translations were leading. The speech of Paul on Mars Hills in Athens, rumbly the tumbly, is a type of the reasoning used with the Gentiles. They're used with other than Jews. Gentiles is insulting in different ways, so I Sorry for that. There he begins with what may be known of God by the teachings of nature, and from these principles of natural religion proceeds to show the necessity of a new revelation both of his will and of himself. The latter condition leads easily to Christ, the facts of whose life and works and character we may suppose would be set forth. It is true we have no complete discourse in which this is done, but there are many intimations of this general method. A whole lot of implied but not said teachings, apparently. Acts 6, 8 through 15, 7, 8, 9, 1 through 30, Tiberius, Emperor, Common Era, 14 through 37, Stephen, Martyr, 36 of the Common Era, Saul's conversion, 37 of the Common Era, faith and power of Stephen, opposition aroused by his preaching, 6 verses 8 and 9, arrest and persecution, false charges and false witnesses, Stephen's appearance, 10 through 15, Stephen's defense and remarkable discourse, 7, 1 through 53. What is the main argument of his address? What does he accuse his nation in its whole history? Does the fact that the nation had rejected Jesus and condemned him to death and treated him with ignominy make against the truth of his messiahship? Why? And we already had the introduction, but how did this powerful presentation of the case against the nation affect the people? What was Stephen's condition amid the excitement, his ecstatic vision, his startling declaration, and its effect on the mob, the violent assault? Yeah, if you don't agree with someone spiritually, you don't attack them. If you don't like what they say, and that's it, you don't like what they say, But I don't know if this will ever stop amongst humanity. Stephen's prayer and death, 50 and 60. What remarkable character first comes to light here? Verse 58. Fierce persecution of the Christians, Saul's conspicuous, 8, 1 and 3. What incidental advantage to the cause from this persecution? Verse 4. Philip's preaching to the Samaritans, 5 through 8. Simon Magus and his pretensions and influence, 9 through 11. Difference between his tricks and Philip's miracles. Have we anything like this in modern times? Effect of Philip's preaching, 12. Simon's apparent conversion, 13. What was Philip's office, 6, 5. Action of the church at Jerusalem when they heard of the work in Samaria, 14. Special effect on the coming of Peter and John, 15 through 17. Had the baptism of the Spirit been given except through the apostles instrumentally? Effect of this manifestation on Simon. What kind of a character is indicated? What English word do we have from this occurrence? Its meaning, Peter's terrible rebuke and Simon's professed penitence, 18 through 24. Philip and the eunuch, 26 through 38. Who was this eunuch? Where was the kingdom of Ethiopia? What was the religious condition of the eunuch? How did Philip explain the passage which he read, 35? What was the result, 36 to 38? What occurred to Philip, 39 and 40? One of the things we find nowadays is that the punishment of criminals by turning them into eunuchs isn't as effective as people think, and sometimes it makes them even more violent offenders. Saul's mission to Damascus. Where was this city and how far from Jerusalem? Saul's business there, 9, 1 and 2. The vision, the voice, the revelation, the conviction and inquiry, 3 and 4. Effect on Saul's companions, or is that 6, 3 through 6. Physical effect on Saul, 7 through 9. Spiritual experiences can definitely have psychic and sensual effects. Ananias sent to him, his reluctance and the reason. How was it overcome? The errand and the result. 10 through 18 was Saul's conviction or his conversion. Was it Saul's conviction or his conversion that was miraculous? What did he do? Effect on the Damascene Jews plot to kill him, his escape, and subsequent return to Jerusalem. Was this return immediate? What occurred meantime? Galatians 1:17, 18. Alarm of the disciples, reassured by Barnabas. Paul's powerful preaching and his persecution aroused escape to Tarsus, 19 through 30. And so Paul's experience. So he was chasing someone, persecuting him, got hit on the head. Why are you persecuting me? Was it the person was it somebody that he was persecuting? Well, the Christian interpretation is that no, it wasn't someone who he was persecuting. It was Jesus. But most people, they would say that, and I'll go lead to my teacher. Then you have sort of a historical appearance of Christianity, but Apollonius was during this time, and Paul's movement really didn't catch on until Apollonius was dead for about 100 years. So that's something to think about too.